Joining me today is Lisa Woodley, Vice President of Experience Design within Financial Services Insurance at NTT Data. Lisa has nearly 20 years' experience of creating digital experiences that drive brand value. She leads a team of digital strategists, research associates, experience architects, and visual designers in the development of strategic digital engagements across insurance, financial services, and many other industries that NTT Data serves. Lisa, thanks for joining me today. To start with, perhaps you can just tell me a little bit about what a VP of Experience Design does.
Sure. So first of all, thank you very much for having me. So with my role, what a VP of Experience Design does, I really like to call myself the digital humanist, because the role of the experience designer within a technology construct is really to look at not the technology possibility out there, but what are the actual challenges that people have, sort of mapping that journey of somebody trying to actually accomplish a goal, and then back into that and understand, based on the challenges people are having, where can things like digital and technology fit in to help overcome some of the gaps and experiences that people are having.
And this section of the filming is really focusing on three technologies, really, and how that can be play out into the customer journey. So whether it's around robotic process automation, AI, and I guess, sort of moving out into the whole chat arena as well. Sort of how do you sort of go about sort of positioning those technologies with clients about, sort of how much they can move towards an automated process versus how much do they have to think about some sort of hybrid solution? Where do you draw the line?
So it's interesting because where I start with clients is I start with the sentence, let's forget about the technology, which is kind of funny because I do work for a technology company. But the idea is that, so we've made a lot of pretty interesting advancements with artificial intelligence and robotic process automation in terms of the capabilities of what it can do. But what I really like to do with my clients is to start with, so let's know there's a lot of stuff there, but let's again start with the experience. So let's sit down and look at, first of all, what are your business challenges? What are the overarching business challenges that you're trying to either overcome, or your business goals that you're trying to achieve? Now let's look at the people who are integral in making those business goals happen. And those people are typically your customers, obviously, and your employees as well. And in particular in insurance, you've got that intermediary, right, which is going to be the broker or the agent. So I really start with saying, yes, there's a lot of exciting technology out there. Let's set that aside for a second, and let's look at what your customers, your employees, your agents are trying to do, how what they're trying to do maps up to your ultimate strategic goals. And then you sort of step back and look at, what are the barriers to achieving your goals and to having all of these humans involved in these interactions, helping you to achieve those goals. And it's when you start to see the barriers, that is the moment when you pull the technology geniuses in to say, okay, where can we apply robotic process automation? Where can we apply artificial intelligence? So for example, we know with many insurers, the claims process, it's a huge point of churn. If you're going to lose a customer, there's sort of 2 or 3 key areas where it's going to happen during the quote to bind, where you're not really losing the customer, you haven't acquired them. But a big one is in that claims process, and then often in that renewal and billing process. So if you think just about mapping the journey of the claims process, and then start to think about, okay, with your customers, where are the friction points? Where are they calling your call center? That's a great indicator of where that friction point is. And often you can look at that and then decide, claims, for example, the gap in time between when I actually file my first notice of loss and when I can actually get my payment. Look at all those processes in there, and that's where you start to say, okay, you know what, where can we automate? Because the automation will then allow that process to happen a lot more quickly. So if you start with that, here's the pain points for the customers, this is the drop-off point for them. Now let's back into it. Where can we apply RPA? And then when you get to that self-help where I'm, for example, I now want to know what the status of my claim is. How easy would it be for us to implement an AI chatbot there to provide that information, as opposed to making them call into the call center or calling their claims agent? So it really provides a great picture for how RPA, for example, can really streamline a process that ultimately will reduce your churn. So you have that a lot of our clients are looking at RPA from a cost savings perspective,
Yep.
which it absolutely can provide a cost savings. But don't just look at it from that cost savings perspective. Start with the how can we actually use RPA as a value add to more quickly process a claim? And then the ROI on those RPAs that you actually implement becomes incrementally higher because you're saving money, but you're also avoiding the churn, the very expensive churn of a client that's unhappy.
You mentioned chat earlier as part of the process for automation. One of the things I've heard being talked about is some sort of aspirational target of pushing more and more of customer servicing either to self-service or via chat. And chat is seen as the new technology on the block, which could possibly drive up even more self-service rates. I've even heard sort of aspirational targets of 80 or 90% of call center transactions to move across to chat. Are we ready for that yet? Is the technology mature enough?
I always get a little nervous when I hear things like 80 to 90% of our processes are going to be, automated via chat, not processes, sorry, 80 to 90% of our calls, so we'll eliminate tier one call center support with an AI chat, because that says to me that the goal for implementing AI chat is business driven and not customer experience driven.
Yeah.
So that always makes me a little nervous because I think it's 80 to 90% of the call center calls that ought to be automated, should be automated. And I say that because insurance can be a very emotional business. So when you ask, are we there yet in terms of AI chat? We are absolutely there for basic, simple questions, and maybe even a little more complex than they used to be, because thanks to machine learning, the AI chat that you're implementing for self-help can learn even from some of the issues that an actual call center rep solved, right? That can go back and through machine learning learn it. But we're not there yet in sort of two areas. So one is, I think we all recognize that the actual voice recognition is not quite there. So for chat, it's fine. But if you're actually calling an IVR, some of the greatest minds in the world are working on solving voice recognition, but we're still not great there. But the other aspect has to do with the sense of insurance being a relationship business. So for very simple things, like what is the status of my claim? What is my next bill? When is it due? Even slightly more complicated things like I don't quite understand what this line item on my bill is. That's fine. But if you really think about some of the areas where people want advice, they want help, or even in the worst case where there's been something like a fire and they're actually either calling in or possibly even going online to talk to somebody about what to do next, that's where you want to be really careful, because the sort of relationship emotional support piece, we're not there yet with AI. No. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I have wonderful aspirations that someday we will be there like the Star Trek universe is. But right now, we need to keep the interactions to the very basic things and make sure we can get people very quickly to a human for those interactions that really do need to be human-based.
Looking at some of the automation that's available now, do you think that also opens up different ways to think about processes and business models? And if so, how can insurers take advantage of that?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm not sure if those of you watching this are familiar with Lemonade, the insurance company Lemonade, which is a sort of insurtech new kid on the block. I believe they're only in California. I'm not sure, but they are online digital next-gen insurance. They just put out something claiming to have broken, I didn't know there was a Guinness Book of World Records for fastest claim paid, but they claim to have broken the record with a 3-minute claim payment. So from the moment the person reported loss to the money sitting in their bank account was 3 minutes. That could only happen one way: if all of those back-end processes were automated, and if there was an AI actually looking at the actual submission of loss all the way through to what was the person's policy, is this actually covered, let's release the payment. Something like that, which is sort of the dream, right? For almost that instantaneous, I tell you I've suffered a loss, you give me the payment. That can only happen with AI and automated processes.
And any other insurers sort of looking into this, sort of working out where to start? Because that's another big question that often we hear is, where do you start when it comes to the AI journey or the automation journey? I understand what I can do, but how do I get going and how do I make a move? What would you recommend to those people?
Yeah, it all comes back to shifting your mindset, sort of flipping the script from where do I start with AI and automation because I want to save money, and flipping it over to what are the opportunities out there to create a more fulfilling, a more positive experience for our customers. So when you think about where do I start in terms of across the business, where do we start with AI and automation? I really encourage working sessions and strategy sessions with IT leaders across your lines of businesses and your business leaders across your lines of businesses, all actually coming together to talk about, as an insurer, what are our ultimate goals? Who are our customers? How can we help them achieve what they are trying to achieve? And when you come together in these strategy sessions, and so not just within your silo, looking at your customers and your agents and understanding where the gaps in their experience are, as I had mentioned previously, and using that to start to create your technology roadmap. It's looking across all of your different business units to understand where is the greatest area of opportunity across your business and where are the most redundancies and the easiest places that we can apply this first. And what that allows you to do across your lines of businesses is prioritize not just within commercial, for example, where do we start, or even within underwriting, where do we start? It's across all of this. What's the biggest bang for our buck? Where can we achieve ultimate customer satisfaction, cost savings through automation that will have the highest impact on our bottom line? So you start with that matrix of the cost, benefit, and the value. And if you bring those three things together, you'll start to get a pretty clear roadmap of where you need to start.
So in the next 2 or 3 years, just the final question really, sort of, what's your vision for this space in the insurance industry? What do you expect to see in that time frame?
I really think in the next 2 to 3 years, and even now, it's going to be all about the data and how you are connecting the data across your business. Because if we think about particularly AI, so RPA is great because RPA, it can be a not entirely elegant solution. It can be pretty dirty in terms of it's just going out there and scraping a lot of stuff together and pulling it together. So RPA can help in situations where you need to sort of align and aggregate data and it's very siloed. But I think data is going to be the focus because any artificial intelligence that you deploy, whether it's via chat or even as a robo agent, that is only as smart as the data it has to work with. And so if you implement these and you don't have the right data both flowing in and flowing out of it, they're going to fail. So as much as we are visioning an AI future for insurance, we can't forget that the engine that is going to power that is your data. And I think we're going to start to see a lot more focus on how do we get not big data, but how do we get big knowledge? How do we get the knowledge out of the data that's going to allow this AI to actually interact in a more meaningful way?
Thanks, Lisa, for all your excellent insights today.
Great. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And that ends our simulcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Look forward to speaking again soon.